Davy! I'm awesome. Welcome to Davy's Awesome Stories, where I tell funny stories from my past or go on a rant in an effort to make you laugh. So, a couple weeks ago I touched on this, how working in retail or restaurants or any kind of customer service, you'll have customers who are mad because they can't have something they want or you can't do something they want. And one of the annoying things they love to throw out all the time is, "You should put a sign up." And that is one of the most annoying things for anybody who has ever worked in customer service. For a few reasons. The first one is, very often there is a sign, they just didn't read them. For example, regarding food stamps. I know now called EBT, but I'm calling them food stamps because I actually did used to work in retail before they went to being EBT. Back when they were still just like paper food stamps, kind of looked like Monopoly money. They eventually switched to the card now, so the card can automatically only take off what it actually is good for. Because yes, you'd get people buying stuff with their food stamps that they weren't supposed to be buying with their food stamps. Like, I never witnessed it, but I'm sure alcohol and stuff like that. I know, for example, there was an AM/PM near where I lived at a time. My friend, his parents were on food stamps, they'd give them to him, and he'd constantly treat me to like an AM/PM cheeseburger. Don't you knock those cheeseburgers. I know I shouldn't love them, but I do. I get it. It's not real meat. It's not real cheese. Pretty sure that's not even real bread. But it was good. But there was a worker there. If he was working, he'd take the food stamps for those warm cheeseburgers, even though he wasn't supposed to. I think he eventually got caught. I'm no detective, but eventually he didn't work there anymore. And they did put up a sign saying, food stamps cannot buy prepared foods. But this was something that was a little more common back then versus now. Now, pretty much anywhere that can accept food stamps will. Back then, it was iffy. You went certain places and no, they didn't accept food stamps. Why? Probably because of stuff like this. They didn't want to deal with the hassle of an employee who wasn't paying attention to what people were buying with those. Probably because of the hassle of people who were basically trying to buy something and get money change back. They did have rules about that. You could only give them cash back if it was less than $1. So if their change was like 35 cents, yes, I could hand them a quarter and a dime and they could go on their way. But if they handed me like a $20 food stamp and bought a $1 soda, if I didn't have $19 worth of food stamps in my drawer, you now decide, did you still want to buy it and get ripped off, or do you just want to go away and come back some other time? Because of this and all the hassle, I guess, I don't know the exact reasons, but again, nowadays with it being on a card, almost everywhere accepts them. I did work one place, a gas station, back in the days before the EBT card, that did not accept food stamps. They opted out of it. It was a government program. It would be funny to me how often people would tell me, "It's legal tender. You have to take it." No, it wasn't. It wasn't like money. It was a food stamp. We didn't have to take it. And I got to the point of not wanting to argue so much that when I would be behind that counter and they would say that to me, I would just look at them and go, "You're going to have to take that up with the owner." But what I also would love is how often they would say to me, "Well, if you're not going to take it, then you should put a sign up." It got to the point I stopped being polite and saying, "Well, there is one." I just would simply look at them and go. Because literally right behind me, there was cigarettes, a little space, more cigarettes. In that little space was a sign that said, "We do not accept food stamps." Nowadays, like I said, almost everywhere that sells food accepts them. Because basically a lot of that hassle has been taken away. Now it's on a card. If in your purchase there is stuff that isn't covered by food stamps, it just simply won't take it off. So they don't have to worry about the employee making a mistake and accidentally letting them buy dog food or something with it. Or again, they don't have to worry about the corrupt person who's letting them buy the dog food because they hate the company so much. And yeah, there are some corrupt people who will still sell their food stamps at regular money, but it's not as simple as it used to be. But whereas this is much more convenient, because again, we don't have to sit there and think about it. We don't have to go like, okay, is this covered? Is that covered? Do they cover this? There's always a trade-off. And one of the trade-offs is this is electronic. Which, like any other electronic thing, will occasionally go down. The satellite will not link up or whatever the heck goes on. The system will be down. Sometimes they'll let us know, but not always. Sometimes we just figure it out because after the third or fourth person, for whatever reason, their food stamps are not working. We have to look at it and go, oh, okay, the system must be down. Because believe it or not, no, when the system goes down, the welfare office does not call every business in the city and let them know. But just like when all of our computers go down, which happens, or all the card readers go out, which happens, it won't be the card reader, it won't be our computers, it will just be the EBT system goes down, and we can literally do nothing about it. We can't make it come back up, we can't manually enter your food stamp card, we cannot manually make it pay for your stuff. It comes down to, I'm sorry, you can wait and hope that it comes back up within the next few minutes or hour, or you can come back another day. That's all we can do. And whenever it happens, which trust me, the workers are much more annoyed than you are. Yes, I get you're annoyed because you waited until the first, you needed food, you came here, you spent all the time grocery shopping, and now you can't buy anything. But at least you have the option to wait or leave. I have to stay there, get yelled at for something I can do nothing about by a bunch of people who are just as mad as you are. And they constantly have to throw out, you should put up signs. Sometimes the reason we haven't put a sign up is we didn't know about it. It's just happening now. We just figured it out now because, again, you're like the third person in a row that for some reason nothing's working. Sometimes we didn't put a sign up because we're working at a place that doesn't want us to put signs up for it. Yes, that happens. I have worked at places that are stringent about this. No handwritten signs. We'd have to go find a printed out, laminated sign to put up, and we don't have enough to put them literally everywhere. But sometimes I've worked at places where that's exactly what we did. We wrote out, EBT is out of order, sorry for the inconvenience, and taped them to every register and certain other places where you would see them, and still they'll look at us and say we should put a sign up, and I'm at the point in my life where I just look at them and go, you people don't read signs, so there's no point in putting them up. For example, how bad it gets, again, every retail place I've worked, at some point, if you work there long enough, whether it's the women's restroom or the men's restroom, a toilet is going to need to be repaired. It's just the way it is. In most places, they have women's restrooms, men's restrooms, so there's more than one toilet, thankfully, but one of them will go out of order. It will get clogged, and nobody who works there is able to unclog it. Or maybe it's not clogged, maybe it's leaking, so that every time it flushes, it floods places. So we'll put up a sign. It'll say out of order. And this is how well you guys read signs. Almost every place I've worked, if I've worked there long enough, that has happened to where in one of the bathrooms, one of the toilets was out of order, probably for a few weeks, because believe it or not, most companies, when they don't have plumbers on demand, they just call a plumber and they'll be there when they get there, which might be a couple of days, might be a couple of weeks. Somebody will go into that stall that says out of order and use the toilet. And some of you, off the bat, you're thinking, well, maybe they thought it was okay. Well, first of all, the sign on the front should have told you. But I get what you're saying. Sometimes you've walked in, you've seen a toilet, it doesn't look anything wrong. The water level looks normal. Because sometimes that's how some clogs work, is you flush them, they start to overflow, and they'll sit there for like an hour, but slowly drip down and go back to looking normal. But they're not. But I'm talking about, I've had people go into those stalls where it says out of order, and the water will not go down at all. It's almost at the frickin' brim, and still sit down and use it. Oh, come on, that can't be true. Until you have worked in customer service, don't you ever underestimate how stupid people can get. Probably one of the worst areas they don't read any signs. Self-checks. Self-checks are machines. Computerized machines. And like I mentioned earlier, computers go down. Machines break. It's inevitable. Sometimes what happened is, for whatever reason, the card reader went down, broke. We don't know why. If we knew how to fix that, we'd have a better job. Or they were using cash, and the cash reader, it got jammed in there. It's a machine. We don't know what makes that happen. We don't know how to prevent that. And there's nothing we can really do about it anyways, because it's not like we can look at you and say, hey, that dollar looks a little sketchy. Please don't put it in there. So it can't take cash. And at this point, wherever you go, whatever company, almost every self-check now is programmed to put some kind of a warning on the frickin' screen. Whether it's that red box that goes all the way around that says card only or cash only. Some of them I've seen where it's just a little icon up at the top of that screen, but basically very clearly says card only, cash only, or some of them, it will pop up before you use it. It'll say cards temporary not available, cash temporary not available, and it'll come up a few times as you're using the freaking machine. And whereas I will say most people notice it, you know anything about that? When one of the self-checks cannot accept cash or cannot accept cards and is letting them know it cannot accept cards, it cannot accept cash, the moment we see that, we groan. Because that means at least 20 to 30 times a day, we're going to have somebody go, oh, card only. I only have cash. So why did you use it? It says card only. I didn't notice it, even though it's very bold and right in my face. So now we have to go through the hassle of going over there and spending your order. And I have encountered that some, not a lot, but some can't do that. They just basically have to go start over again somewhere else. But we have to go over there, suspend your order, and take it to another register, or maybe just the little one that we have up there for something like that, depending on if they're all being used. And we have to go through this because you can't freaking read the screen. But despite the fact that it says on the screen, I've in many times encountered people who went through that whole process, rang up all their stuff, realized, oh, I'm a dummy who didn't read that very clear sign on the screen, and still look at us and say, well, you should put a sign up. You hear yourself? Even though the screen says it, I should put another sign up? I hate to break it to you, but you're just an idiot. It doesn't matter what I put up there. You're not going to read it. Kind of like when I'd work in manned registers where I'm ringing you up. It'd be the end of my shift. I'd take a sign. I'd go to the end of my register, put it there, say you're the last customer. And I'd still have people come up and I'd have to yell out to them, sorry, but I'm closing. You can't just ring me up real quick? Sometimes, no, I can't. I need to get out of there. I'm already over my time. Sometimes, can I? Yes. Am I willing to? No. And again, we'll hear, well, if you're closed, then you should put a sign up. And one time I was so freaking irritated by hearing that, because I'd hear it all the time, even though there was one right there, I actually said to the person, there's one right there, plus I turned the light to my register off. How many more hints do you need? Do I need a neon sign that's flashing, close, 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 close? I think the worst time I ever encountered this. I one time worked at a clothing store. I'm not going to tell you which one, but a popular one. And it sold, yes, more than just clothing, but it was mostly clothing. That's what it was known for. Which means, of course, there were dressing rooms. Of course, dressing rooms, like always, they're locked. Because we want to keep track of you some way from stealing our stuff. So people would come up and say, can you open a dressing room? Sure. More often than I would like to recount, people would come up, say they want to try some stuff on, can I open a dressing room? And I would look at them and say, sure, what are you trying on? And they would show me, they're trying on this, they're trying on that, they're trying on this. And I'd have to look at them and tell them, I'm sorry, but you can't try on underwear. Now, not to sound sexist, but I never once had this issue with a dude. It was always women. Probably because guys, most of us, the underwear we buy comes in a pack, so we know we can't open them. We just know our size, and honestly, we care so little about this that if it turned out we got one that was a little too big, we'll deal with it. But women, they have packs, but it seems more often than not they buy individual, and they want to try them on. And I get it. Some things don't fit the way you want them to. Especially when it comes to women's underwear. There's sometimes they fit in a way where even though it's their size, there's that little pooch in the back that makes it look like they took a dump. But you can't try on underwear. That's gross. And I can tell you this much, of those who wanted to try on underwear, not once did they ever say, oh, that makes sense. No, it was always an argument. That why not? What if it doesn't fit? Then they'd have to bring it back. And I'd have to inform them, I'm sorry, but at this particular place, underwear sales are final. The only way it could be made an exception is if it was like, again, you bought a pack of underwear, you brought them and said, like, look, I didn't even put these on yet and there's a hole in them. Happens. Okay, sure, go grab another pack. But your individual underwear, it didn't fit the way you wanted? Sorry. Or some of them would swear that, don't worry, they're going to try them on with underwear on so that it won't actually touch. We can't take your word for that. We can't take your word for that, and obviously I can't be in there with you while you're trying them on. That would kind of defeat the purpose of an entire room. You get privacy and to try on stuff. The answer was no, and so many times they would throw out. Well, if that's your policy, then you should put a sign up. To me, that one is ridiculous. Why would we put a sign up for something that should be common knowledge? Why would you think that you can put your business all over some underwear and we were just going to take the risk of you going like, I don't want this, and us putting it back on the shelf? We can't do that. Especially nowadays. By my generation, we knew about stuff that you could get through just contact. Like, I know you can't get AIDS just through contact, but you can get herpes, you can get genital warts, and I'm pretty sure that some women would be very, very mad to find out they got herpes because we let somebody else who had herpes try that underwear on before they bought it. But one time, this woman was so irate that I had to go get my manager. That wasn't one time. That happened several times. But he said the perfect thing when somebody said to him, you should put a sign up. He said, ma'am, we literally have hundreds of pages worth of policy. We cannot literally make a sign for every single policy we have, especially for one that should be pretty obvious. So the point of this rant this week, stop telling us that we should put signs up. You wouldn't read them anyway. So there you have it. That's my story video this week. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell so you get notifications when I post the videos. And leave a comment I can respond to in my next comment corner. And tell me some other times that you guys had signs that nobody read, or people expected you to put up signs for ridiculous crap. Love you guys.